Hello, and welcome to the Kindergarten Curriculum Preview. This is going to be for the fourth 6 weeks. Appreciate you joining me. Obviously, you're listening to the voiceover presentation. At the end of this presentation, if you want to go back and review the slides, or if you'd rather just look at the slides with the notes, I just want to remind you, you can go back to the SMORE, and then the Google presentation is in there with the slides, and the notes will be at the bottom. So whichever works for your needs, that's available to you. I want to start off by just reminding everyone of the importance of using this document, the unit overview, as you plan your unit as well as your lessons. We've moved this into Canvas this year, so if you are unclear on how to access the unit overview in Canvas, you might want to pause the presentation and just take a look at these instructions. The unit overview is your portal to the pacing guide. It's the portal to the clarifiers. And it also will save you time because I've got some notes in there about what resources we have available in the science lab, what has come to you for your particular grade level, as well as lessons for each one of the standards. So if you're not utilizing the unit overview, I encourage you to do so. And utilizing the one that is current, the one that's in Canvas, is going to be essential because it's been updated this year to include some new resources. Okay, so just a quick look at the fourth 6 weeks from a district glance. You'll see that it starts on January 16th and ends on February 23rd. We've just got two student holidays within there. And we're going to look at the pacing for this unit. And I just want to remind you that the pacing guide can be found at the top of the unit overview. When you get to the unit overview, click on the hyperlink at the top that I've got highlighted in yellow, and then you'll see this document come up. So this gives us a glance all on one paper of what the 6 weeks is broken up into as far as little mini units. So you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different mini units. And it tells you about how many class periods each one has. And then this is the leading standard, and then we have our partnering process skills here. So this will help you kind of schedule out by weeks what you'll be doing on each one of those weeks. So let's take a look at the pacing guide in a little bit different view. This is an outline view of what we just saw in the previous slide. We're going to start off this unit with 5 classes of really practicing how to record and organize data. In kindergarten, your content standards as well as the process skill standards, I feel are really equal in weight. You are really teaching them the foundation of how to make an observation, how to record that, to understand what information is and how we collect that. So we're going to take 5 days to really do some mini lessons on how to record and organize data. We're going to be doing that with pictures, numbers, and words. If you would like to incorporate this into something you're doing in social studies, for instance, recording and organizing data for something that you maybe are studying right now in social studies or something that you're reading about in reading, I think that's a fantastic idea to do some integration, and then you can practice it in a science context as we go through the rest of the mini units. So that might help save you a little bit of time by doing some integration. The second part of the 6 weeks is going to be focused on 8 classes and looking at weather changes. And so when we talk about weather changes in kindergarten, students should be going out and observing and describing the weather changes from day to day. They're also going to be looking at weather changes over the seasons. And so those are 2 perspectives that we'll be working on. And then we're going to bring in that process skill of how do we record and organize this information that we are seeing, and how we do that with pictures, numbers, and words. And then this is a great time for us to bring in exploring scientists and how they investigate the natural world. So it's a great way for us to start to bring in meteorologists and maybe other scientists that study weather changes. Then we're going to move into 5 classes with patterns of the seasons and patterns of day and night. So the focus for this particular standard is really identifying events that have repeating patterns. The 2 examples that are listed in the standard are seasons and day and night, although that can be expanded out to other things as well, which I'll talk about in the next slides. Again, we're going to practice recording those patterns, that data and observations with pictures, numbers, and words, and any type of scientist that might be doing these types of investigations as well. So this could be, again, with the weather, if we wanted to do that, but there's some connections within STEM scopes that might help in the elaborate piece that could help with that. And then we're going to round out Unit 5 for the 6 weeks with 7 classes of objects in the sky. And here your students again are doing lots of observation of clouds, moons, stars, including the sun, and then they're going to describe what they see and then illustrate what they have observed. And that, of course, ties into nicely with that process skill of recording and organizing data. We're going to talk a little bit more specifically about these standards, but that gives you just kind of a general overview of where we're going this 6 weeks. So one of the things I like to do is do a comparison of the vertical alignment between kindergarten and first grade, because when you look at these standards between the 2 grade levels, they look very similar. So this is something I like for us to do when we have some upcoming units. So this table shows the comparison between what we do in kindergarten with our standards and then what they do next year in first grade. And there's a little bit of spiraling that happens in first grade, but you can see what your area of focus is for kindergarten and then where they're going to go next year. So I encourage you to pause the presentation and just look at those little subtle differences between what you do with your students and where they'll be going next year. So now that we've kind of looked at the differences, what does this mean for our instruction? And the boxes there on the left-hand side in yellow, I've got some ideas for you for your focus, as well as some places to find some of that information. Those have been specifically targeted in the unit overview, in the approaches to classroom use, as well as the resources. So to show you what I'm talking about, I'm going to pull over the unit overview. So if you want to continue reading that, go ahead and push pause. And then I'm going to pull over unit overview. Okay, so in the unit overview, some of the areas that are going to be really helpful for you regarding the vertical alignment is this area, approaches to classroom delivery. I specifically look at that through the lens of kindergarten and your content and process skills. And I've broken that down into different concepts for you. So this is really designed to help you kind of know where you're going and save you some time. And then just to remind you, down here at the bottom under resources for every standard, here's all of the things that we have to teach this particular standard. And again, those notes are there to help save you some time as well. And this is in the unit overview. Okay, so I want to also show you a couple of ideas that I found for maybe some interactive word walls and some anchor charts. Both of these images come from Dr. Julie Jackson's Facebook page. It's called Science Toolkit, and I often go on there to look for ideas, or some of you are kind enough to send me images of what you're doing in your classrooms, and I think that's so powerful for other teachers to get a glimpse of what's happening in other classrooms and build upon that or take it and make it their own. I love this example at the top because it includes student work. So they've got day and night as the pattern here, and what they would see in the day and what they would see at night. So that's just kind of an example of way you get your students to be interactive with that, as well as the Venn diagram at the bottom. So here we have day and night and then both. And students have created examples, either finding pictures or drawing pictures of things that they would say in the day and things that they would see at night. I also love, I don't know if you can see it from this view, but they have the moon drawn right here, that can be seen in day and night, which is great. that's a misconception. A lot of times kids only think that the moon is out during the nighttime because it's easier to see at night. Sometimes when it's up during the day, the sun is too bright to see it. Also, just want to remind you that we have some windsocks and big demonstration thermometers. These might be, these are in your science lab. The demo thermometers might actually be in your classroom, or they could be in the science lab. And then I wanted to point out some the literacy connections for this unit. We have a lot of great titles that fit nicely. The top two pictures are Delta Science readers. Remember, you have student versions of these books as well as the big book versions. And then STEMscope's big books, you got these 2 years ago, and there are several titles that fit in nicely with this particular unit. And there's the covers of the pictures. I'm going to bring the unit overview again and just show you where you can find the list of these. So for any particular standard, I will have the literacy connections usually listed over here on this side. And then if you look under STEMscope's big books, there's going to be a hyperlink to the list of all of those titles. And you can see that you have quite a few of them. I'm going to take a minute for my picture to come up. So you have a set of 24 titles, and you have one set per team. So that was what we had with our adoption that we brought in. But you can see the list of titles there. And again, I have those correlated in the unit overview for you. Just want to make you aware of that resource. Okay, and then just kind of round out with a couple of ideas for some technology ideas. Chatterpix is so great with primary students as well as StoryKit. And then there's some examples of how you can use that with the content. I also want to make sure you are aware of a really great weather site called kidsweatherreport.com. It's very primary friendly. There's not a whole lot of text on it, and it's got weather information. You can type in different locations around the world and see what the temperature is in both Celsius and Fahrenheit. It will show an icon for if it's cloudy or rainy or sunny, and then what students would typically be wearing with that kind of weather. And then just a reminder about vocabulary. The official vocabulary list is going to be found on the standard clarifier. And again, you can find that linked on the first page of the unit overview. I know many teachers like to use the STEMscope's picture vocabulary, and that's great. It has some of the vocabulary, but not usually all of it. So be sure that you're referring to the standard clarifier to make sure your students have all the vocabulary for that particular standard. And then just a final reminder that you do have an academic coach for science, and that is me, Brenda Swerzinski. I am happy to help you at any time. I'm just email, phone call away, and I'm happy to come out and meet with you if that's a need that you have, or just answer your question in any way I can. Alternatively, I love, love, love it whenever you send me examples of what you're doing in your kinder classrooms. It really helps me to be able to share with others the successes, and it just helps other people grow as well. So if you've got some cool things happening, I'd love to share those out with everyone else. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great 6 weeks. Let me know how I can support your elementary kindergarten science program.